Oh my Lord, we are back in color, on video, on YouTube, cranking out college football videos. We're back to where we were day one, Brandon. This is how
We
we
are in college
started.
football month. It starts like this
This
month,
it
couple weeks.
starts this month. Big games, not till September 1st, but that's still only a month away. Oh my Lord. No, we've been on a trend. Whether you have been following us on Instagram or Twitter, you know that we've been talking about the top 25 in college football according to ESPN's too early rankings, as they have yet to drop the rankings officially for this upcoming season. Now we're getting through teams 14 to 10, so we have a great showing and outing for our last episode. And I mean, there are some teams that there's one team that surprises me. Another team that I've been waiting to talk about because you have been pooping on them for the entire off season. So I mean, I think we should just get right into this.
Well, before we get right into this, I just want to say this is like a special month. I mean, we all love college football, but what's
Hmm.
better than waking up on Saturday morning, getting a cup of coffee? If you're not tailgating, 9 a.m., you hear that college game day jingle and you are just locked in on that TV. And then
You
you get
hear
what, 10 hours of games in one day? I mean, come on. Nothing better than college football season. We
you
have a lot
hear
to get into, though.
you may hear Lee Corso call a 5-year-old kid a midget. You might hear him drop the F bomb. You'll hear not Denzel, Desmond Howard's laugh, that iconic thing. It's college football, man. There is no sport, in my opinion, that comes to the level and excitement that college football brings. I mean, like I said, we got to kick it off. We got to kick it off with the number 14 team, the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yes, Oklahoma Sooners returning four offensive starters with their five defensive and one special teams, which I really don't think that should even be a freaking stat, but it is. Um, this is going to be a completely different team to watch as far as just a team goes. I mean, what we have Brett Venables in from Clemson, he was the defensive coordinator for Clemson. Now he's
Correct.
taking over a big time program, which I would probably say this is a bigger program than Clemson. Probably not as of recently, but as historically, yes, it's a bigger program. But you are losing key players: Caleb Williams, Jaden Haselwood, Kennedy Brooks. Nick Bonito to the draft, Isaiah Thomas, Pat Fields. The list goes on. I mean, there's top talent that is leaving Oklahoma. A lot of it went to USC, I believe. Haselwood, I don't know where he went. You were talking about it though. Did he get drafted?
Whom?
Jaden Hasselwood, the wide receiver, Oklahoma, because
I
he's
don't.
not there.
He's not there, but I mean, to be honest, not the biggest loss in my opinion. I don't know where he went. But look, we can discuss losses all day. Let's
But I will
discuss.
say they do bring in Dylan Gabriel. I think that's out of all the additions they've made from the transfer portal, that's probably their biggest one, at least to replace the quarterback. But at the same time, it is nowhere near the talent of Caleb Williams that they had, or a Spencer Rattler for that matter. I'm surprised Spencer didn't want to just come back to Oklahoma after he heard of Caleb Williams leaving. But Gabriel threw for more than 8,000 yards and 70 touchdowns in 3 seasons at UCF. So it's not like they're bringing in some scrub, especially for an air raid type offense in the Big 12, which will be their last season in the Big 12.
Not
But
their
I
last
don't see
season
Oklahoma.
in the Big 12. They still got till 2025 till they can
I
leave.
thought it was 2024 or 2023, 2024 they were headed over.
No, because
Um,
it's all contractual. It's stupid.
I think as far as the defensive standpoint goes, they'll be fine just because of Venables' attributes for the defensive side of the ball. Offense is going to be a little tricky. I want to see how Gabriel does. The good thing is their schedule is pretty heavily favored in their retrospect. I mean, they have Kansas State, Baylor, and Oklahoma State at home this year. So those bigger games are at home. Playing in Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner is always very tough. Um, the record last year, 11-2, 7-2 in the Big 12. I could see them possibly repeating as 11-2, maybe going 10-3. It might be one of those situations where we might see them out of a New Year's Six bowl because of a late season loss.
Just one small correction, nothing big. They were actually 8-1 in the Big 12. Their only Big 12 loss was to Oklahoma State. Um, And you talk about the offense a lot, and when you think of the Big 12 historically, you think of offense, but when you look at last year and the year before that, the Big 12 is transitioning into a defensive heavy, hard hitting, coverage like crazy league. And I think that defense in this conference can support a mediocre offense. That's what happened to Oklahoma State last year. Offense was terrible. The running backs were almost always injured, and the Spencer Sanders could not throw the ball to save his life, yet they were 2 inches away from being Big Ten champs, and the actual Big Ten champs, Baylor, are practically the same exact way. I think that they can survive on pure defensive power, and that's what Brent Venables is going to do. He makes insanely great defensive linemen. He will continue to do that at Oklahoma. Linebackers should be fine. The corners should be fine. Um, they bring in three different offensive linemen this year, two tackles and one interior lineman.
Mhm.
So they'll have at least they will give Dylan Gabriel time to check down and throw the ball. I think that should be good enough to get them 11 wins, 10 wins. As you mentioned, they're bigger games. The bigger games are the big games that they can have at home. They have at home. They have Oklahoma State and Norman, as you mentioned. They have Baylor home, Kansas State home. Obviously, Texas probably is up there with one of their more tougher opponents. That's always neutral site. I think they will go to Nebraska in week 2 and win because Nebraska, as mentioned many times on this podcast, is
I can
horrendous.
don't mean to cut you up, but I just looked at their schedule. I could see them starting off the season 5-0. That's a very reasonable schedule. The first 5 games, it's UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska. I think it's like I know TCU's in there.
Yeah, okay. Nebraska, Kansas State, TCU, Texas. That's like their
For the
first
first
six.
5 games.
That's their first 6 games right there. UTEP,
Gotcha.
Kent
Well,
State, Nebraska, Kansas State, TCU, Texas. To be honest with you, out of the first 6, I think their toughest game is TCU. TCU is always a struggle for anyone in the Big 12.
and I will say a correction to your correction of me. They did lose 2 games in the Big 12 to to Baylor and Oklahoma State.
According to ESPN, their 2021 record was 8-1.
Well, we're looking at different stuff, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
Because
It says
I
7 and
can't
2 on my end.
I'm looking at I'm gonna look at their season. That's football. I don't want football. I mean, it's basketball. I want football. Just double check, folks. Clearly, we're not the greatest fact checkers in human existence here.
I promise you, they're 7 and 2 Big 12.
Yeah, okay. It's 7-2. I don't know why ESPN has 8-1. Look, I know I just said 11-1. Baylor and Oklahoma State, I think, are better than Oklahoma, but they're obviously at home, so I think they will get one of those games. I think they'll get the Baylor game. I think Oklahoma State, for the first time, I think ever, will have back-to-back games, one against Oklahoma. Obviously, I'm biased as I am a huge Oklahoma State fan. But you know what? I'm gonna change. I'm gonna go down to 10-2. I think they'll lose to Oklahoma State, and I think they'll choke one to Texas Tech in Lubbock.
So you'll think they'll lose Big 12 championship or not even make it then?
They will not make the Big Ten championship this year. I guarantee it. I think it'll be a repeat of last year.
I think it'll be an interesting season. I want to see how well Venables does actually taking over a full team, especially in a big conference like that when you're going up against Gundy and
Gundy and Aranda.
Aranda and whoever the new quarterback, new coach is at TCU.
Yeah, also, I mean, look, you can mock Sark all you want. The dude clearly knows what he's doing because he got Arch Manning to commit there. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
And
yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of, we're talking about Big 12 teams, as we will move on to number 13, the new Big 12 member, Houston Cougars, at number 13. 12-2 last year, 8-0 in the AAC. This is actually my team to win the AAC in their final year before they depart. I think the quarterback they brought in, Lucas Colley, he was a Arkansas transfer. This kid's got a lot of talent. Big blow, though, in their spring practicing, and I believe in their game. They lost Alton McCaskill. I watched him last year. Great running back, a lot of speed. But that will hurt them. I think their schedule is pretty favorable also. They do, yeah. Tayshaun Henry. I don't even know how you say it. I mean, I'm pretty sure since we are of the white complexion, that is Tayshaun with a Z Henry. He ran for 513 with 7 touchdowns last season. And Campbell, another transfer for running back since they lost McCaskill. They're going to split some carries. He's coming from Southern Cal. But I've always liked Houston's defense. If you watch them, how they played Cincinnati, I get it. It was a loss, but that was probably the greatest game in the AAC to watch. They always played the games really well. Like I said, I'm sticking with my pick. I like Dana Holgerson as the coach over there, former West Virginia guy. Houston. I think they're going to go undefeated next year. Or this year, excuse me.
That is wow. Well, I disagree. I think they are the third best team in the AAC behind both Memphis and SMU.
Listen, hold on a second. You just hold your damn horses. The toughest game they have on their schedule is SMU, probably.
No, the toughest game on their schedule, in my opinion, is Texas Tech. Texas Tech is one, as I've mentioned before in previous episodes. Texas Tech is my biggest sleeper in this next upcoming college football season. So look, week 2 they play Texas Tech. That's a loss. Then you put together a string of 2 good, probably easy ones against Kansas and Rice, and then Tulane. They'll win, but it's not going to sleep on Tulane. I love Tulane. Then they lose to Memphis. Then a tough game against Navy. Then you beat South Florida, and then SMU. So look, they're a 3-loss team next year. I don't see them being undefeated. I think that is a very, very high mark. I mean, you look at Memphis. Were they 6-6 last year? Yes, they were, but they're going to improve this year. I just think that they have the older talent. It's kind of a Cincinnati-ish situation where they don't have as much talent as Cincinnati had, but I believe they have a good flurry of old guys who know how to win. Last year wasn't their greatest year, but the year before that was a very solid year. And SMU was 8-4 last year, so they're not a team to sleep on either. They do have a new head coach this year, but I do think that they will be fine. I see Houston maybe they win the AAC, but I don't think that they are the best team in the AAC. Nor do I think they'll be undefeated.
That's my hot take. That was going to be my hot take for these 4 teams. Houston
is it
going
that hot
undefeated.
though? I mean, is it that hot? They're 13th.
It is, because if you're projecting them to if you're having them lose 3 games after going 12-2 last season and undefeated in the conference, they just lost to Cincinnati in the conference game, which was a hell of a game until the 4th quarter, and then Cincinnati just kind of
because they can't finish games. They're like Nebraska.
But they don't play Cincy this year. It doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm just saying. It is incredibly difficult for a team.
Yes, it is.
In the AAC to have. Also, they lost their bowl game, by the way. To have 2 undefeated regular seasons.
Undefeated conference seasons?
Well, they lost in the conference championship, did they not?
Yeah, but that didn't count towards their AAC record.
Yeah, but that's not a regular season game, right? I'm saying they lost the conference championship and they lost their bowl game.
Understood.
I'm just saying it's difficult for a team like this after losing a very, very, very solid talent to repeat that.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying, look, could I be wrong with Memphis and SMU? Totally. But for them to go undefeated against a team like Texas Tech, for them to beat Texas Tech, I just don't see that happening.
But what I'm saying is, last thing, even if they go undefeated, I don't think they have a shot of getting into the playoff just because the strength of the schedule will be horrible.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, you look at Cincinnati, they at least played good teams. They played Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Well, we go from AAC to ACC here. Of the team that I'm pretty sure you brought up before this podcast started.
Thank God.
This is going to be the utter downfall of this program this year.
So goddamn
and I am
wrong.
so excited. I am so excited. Well, they went 10-3 last year, turned it on a little bit towards the end of the season, 6-2 in the ACC. DJ, apparently everyone's raving, oh, God, he lost 25 pounds. Get out of here. He's a horrible quarterback. He's so inconsistent, cannot throw the ball, tries to force stuff when it's not even there. Just disgusting. The only positive they had was Cade Klubnik, the backup, had a great spring game. Adam Randall, the wide receiver, who was expected to help, he tore his ACL during the spring. That's another weapon down for DJ. Do you want my prediction for this team?
It's going to be
You
horrible.
really want my
It's
prediction?
going to be
for
the
this
dumbest
team?
thing any human being has ever heard.
They're just going to go 9-4.
How is that a downfall of a team?
They're going to go 9-4 and not make the ACC championship game.
That's okay. That's just wrong. 'Cause you're one of those people who's probably hyping the hell out of NC State for no goddamn reason.
Are you kidding me, dude? Don't get me started.
Don't give me this Devin Leary's the next Jesus Christ thing. Okay, I'm tired of hearing that because he's not.
Good.
He's
He's
Ryan
really
Tannehill.
God, he's good.
Clemson has 10 returning players on the offensive end last year. So look, they're only going to get better. Let's say DJU does not play. Okay, DJU played almost the entire season injured last year. But eight of the 12 games that he played injured. And he still did, top half of the NCAA in statistics. Even if he doesn't play up to expectations, you have 5-star Cade Klubnik. Is he a true freshman? Sure, but he's also like the second highest rated quarterback in the last 7 years. This dude is a G. He's a god. Okay,
they finished third in the Atlantic Division last year. Behind it, they tie with NC State. They were behind Wake Forest. I will let you finish your take. Listen.
Don't say you're gonna let me finish and then let me finish.
No, I will. I'll let you finish and then I'll get into their schedule once you're done.
Okay. I don't want to. Nothing you're gonna say to me is gonna make any comprehensible sense. Not only does Clemson yet again have the best defensive line in the country, they still retain 6 of the total 11 starters from that defense. Oh, okay, and that defense was great last year. Just because they lost 3 games, they lost 2 games in the ACC, and the only reason they were what was it? A game behind Wake Forest, if not tied with Wake Forest, is because Wake Forest had a miraculous season, and NC State played a relatively easy schedule in the ACC last year. Clemson will be an 11-win team. Their only loss coming very early on in the season.
They're going to be an 11-win team, even though Wake Forest was 11-3 last year.
Because Wake Forest is not going to be better. I've said this before. Okay, I think Wake Forest is an absolute scrub. They were so lucky last year. The amount of games they won by 2 points off of pure luck.
First 5 games, I could see them going 3-2 or 4-1.
That is who are the 2 teams they're losing to?
I'm saying 3-2 or 4-1.
Who are the 2 teams they're losing to?
If they were to lose 2 games, it would be when you're going to Wake Forest.
Wake Forest is not a tough place to play at.
Or at home against NC State and Mr. Leary.
I'm telling you right now, as I said, they have the best defensive line in the country. They will have no problem putting pressure on this golden boy everyone claims him to be.
What I'm saying is
no one goes to Winston-Salem afraid of anything. It's Winston-Salem.
Hey,
Clemson will go in and
everybody
walk
last year.
Because they were the equivalent of 2007 Kansas, but somehow even worse. I'm just saying. Let's not hold them up as some great program because they had 1 good year. They still had 3 losses. They had as many losses as Clemson did last year. And they're going to be better than Clemson this year? I think not.
I'm not saying they're going to be better, but I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout win.
You literally just said they're better. You literally just said that that they have a chance to lose to Wake Forest, and that how are they going to be 11-1 when Wake Forest was 10-3?
That never came to me as saying, oh, hey, Wake Forest is going to have a better record than Clemson next year.
But when you say that, it implies that you think Wake Forest will finish higher than Clemson because you think Wake Forest will beat Clemson.
But what I'm saying is first 3 games, 3-0. At Georgia Tech, garbage.
Georgia Tech is on a rise. They're finally –
No, they're not.
They're finally getting out of the triple
option.
At
home against Louisiana Tech, 3-0. At Wake Forest,
4-0.
I'll put it a 60-40 Clemson wins. NC State, 60-40 in NC State's favor on that one. And then after those two first conference games, then you're going 2 games away against Phil Jurkovec at Boston College and then at Florida State. With the whole new regime they're bringing in and all the recruits they brought in, that'll be a very tough game. And
don't even talk about Florida State being good. Let's stop that. We've been saying that for 6 years and they haven't shown anything.
Then another win when they're at home against Syracuse. Then they come to South Bend where they're going to get steamrolled by the best defensive line in the country.
They're not the best defensive line in the country. They weren't even the best defensive line in the country last year.
The only reason why I give Louisville a slight chance, I'm saying a slight chance, is because of Cunningham. That's it. And the running back. That's it. No one could really stop them last year. But as you said it because you are a fan of Mr. Shane Beamer. That's the last game of the season. That'd be very tough.
Well, the thing is, it's not even just Shane Beamer and the Cox. They brought in a lot of talent, like we've talked about, Spencer Rattler and Mark Stogner from Oklahoma. The game before that, you're getting on their way, fully churning their way through Mario Cristobal. Now, I've been told that people like it when I describe things more in depthly, as a lot of people really don't know what or why we like Mario Cristobal so much. Mario Cristobal was at Oregon for, 4 years, and in 4 years won the Pac-12 twice and won a Rose Bowl. He's going to dominate Miami, as that's where he is from, and in Miami is easy to recruit if you know what you're doing, and he knows what he's doing. Miami's going to be dangerous, maybe not as dangerous as we expect this year, but definitely the year after that. I want to discuss the Boston College, Florida State, and Notre Dame games, as you kind of breezed by them. I like Phil Jurkovec more than I like Devin Leary. I think he's more talented. He's just more injury prone. As discussed, to Clemson, you said Notre Dame has the best defensive line. Clemson, based on statistics and overall ratings by coaches and coordinators, Clemson has the better defensive line. Florida State, look, did they have a more improved recruiting class under Mike Norvell? Yes. Do they still suck? Yes. Last year, when they start the season 0-6, they lost to an FCS team. Let's not give them too much credit here. Obviously, Syracuse can blow over that. Notre Dame struggles against any team with comparable or better talent. They always have and they always will. The only time they've beaten a team like this is when they beat Clemson, but that was a Clemson team without, I believe it was Stalsky and Trevor Lawrence. Is Notre Dame good? Yes. They still have plenty of quarterback questions. The wide receiving core is not exactly on par with the wide receiving core you would like to see from teams that would threaten a Clemson. Will this be a close game? Yes, I believe the spread, what is like a 14-point spread? I think that's what it is. That's too much. Notre Dame will definitely cover the spread, but I do think Clemson will win. And the fact that you said Notre Dame is going to steamroll them hurts me.
I can't wait until we get to the Notre Dame conversation because I'm going to go really in depth on what I feel like will happen this season.
So will I, because I guarantee
what I'm saying is when you're going to have teams that come into this environment now with how much has changed environment-wise just because of Freeman and just of the hype and how the players are responding to that more than they did when Kelly came aboard. That's just something to be aware of, especially a night game in South Bend with how crazy that stadium does get, especially Clemson coming to town. I said I'll talk more into it when we get to Notre Dame.
Do not discuss Notre Dame atmosphere. I have said so many gosh dang times, but Notre Dame has no atmosphere. It's not different. The tickets are the same, and the people that are going there are still those 80 to 90-year-old white people who don't know how to.
We're not talking about Notre Dame right now,
Brandon. Because I'm right, you want to change the conversation.
No, it's all right. Because
you and I both know when we were at Purdue game, it was a close game for the entire game, and nobody was cheering. It was dead silent for the first 3 quarters. That is not an atmosphere. I'm sick and tired of people thinking Notre Dame got this great atmosphere. We don't. There is no atmosphere at Notre Dame.
It's the Freeman effect.
Will it be a little different? Yes, but the people buying the tickets are still going to be the same.
Okay. We'll see him go undefeated. Anyways, up to 11 is your mullet concierge of Coach Mike Gundy and the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 7 returning offense, 4 returning defense, 2 special teams, 12-2 last year, 8-1 in the Big 12 after losing a heartbreaker in the Big 12 championship
I cried.
because
I
Mike
did
Gundy
cry.
doesn't know how to run an offense.
That's not true.
So let's just run to the
He did for so
pylon and
long. He did for so
nothing.
long.
But anyways, it's all right though. They do lose Martin. As a top wideout and leading rusher Warren. So I don't know who they're bringing in to replace those guys.
Gordon.
Okay, well, you talked about it. They did lose defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, which is a huge loss.
Hurt.
He left,
that hurts a ton.
Left for Ohio State, but they did bring in Derek Mason to replace him. But I don't know. Don't know about the Cowboys. I'm not saying they're going to have a dismal year. I think they'll still probably go, 11-3, probably finish second in the Big 12. Go to the Big 12 championship game and lose it.
Will they
to Baylor?
Look, listen. Mike Gundy's not a man to lose it the same way twice. So if we think it's going to be Baylor, Oklahoma State, it's not going to be a blowout because both are 2 defensive powerhouses. The one issue that happened with Oklahoma State last year that kept them out of the playoff, which I think is something that we can finally both agree on in this episode, is that Spencer Sanders did not know how to take care of the football. When he did, he did not. He did it when it was too late. He would do it in the second half, and by then it's like you can't do much now, dude. You already cost your team just about everything. So let's just if he can be, honestly, if he can be 2% better in terms of like maintaining control of the ball, Oklahoma State could go undefeated next year. They could go undefeated.
Hypothetically, yes. But when you're losing your top 2 leading tacklers and then 4 guys out of your secondary to transfers, that's a huge issue. Especially for a team that
look, we've seen Oklahoma State go through kind of turnovers like this, and every year it's like, well, I'm not sure that they will be able to recover. They always find a way because Gundy does a heck of a lot more with a heck of a lot less. And now that he has, he will do better recruiting in Oklahoma than Venables will. He already has. He will be fine. Look, they lost a running back. They brought in a 4-star running back who was better in quality.
The issue is you are playing Baylor in the 4th game of the season at Baylor.
No, look, if they lose that, they will cover. It does not matter. It does not matter.
But then you are at TCU, which has always been a tough place to play. It doesn't matter who's going in there. TCU's always put up a fight in the Big 12, especially with conference games. Then you're at home against the Cyclones, but then you're at Oklahoma for Bedlam. Last game of the season against West Virginia. All I'm saying is when you lose that much talent on the defensive side, it might be tough for a team that prides themselves on defense, especially when most of them have transferred. Most of them transferred to LSU after the hire of Derek Mason, who, kind of funny, he was defensive coordinator at Auburn.
And defense was definitely not the problem there. Let's just say that.
It might be this year. That's my concern.
No, Derek Mason was not a problem in terms of defensive coordinator-ish stuff at Auburn. He was fine at Auburn, and he has more talent at TCU than he does at Auburn. And Mike Gundy has always been a defensive kind of guy. His defense has always been good. It just whenever he comes to Oklahoma, it's like, well, we can't do crap about that, which is understandable. It's Oklahoma. Look, if they lose to Baylor, which is entirely possible, they have many weeks after that to recuperate. They'll be fine. At the absolute worst, I'm saying 11-1.
Jesus Christ! I will put money that they lose 3 to 4 games.
How?
I will put freaking money on it.
They have not lost as much as you think they have, and what they have lost, they have replaced with talent of equal or better production value.
I'm just saying, if I were a betting
Josh
man,
Pate agrees with me, and that's all I care about.
That's fine. That's why we have this podcast.
Okay, just saying.
We're finishing up the day.
Because last year, all I kept hearing was, "Oh, there's no shot that Oklahoma State gets even close." It's like, I'm sure about that.
Yeah, but look how much had to happen.
Look how much had to happen. They were legit a centimeter away from being the college football playoff. You think they're going to be 3 to 4 losses?
Loss is a loss.
Insane. You don't go from
You
don't go from 3 inches to 4 losses. That just doesn't happen.
You go from 3 inches to 4 inches.
That's not a bad thing.
Still a loss. Anyways, number 10, Michigan
But yeah,
Wolverines.
see, you say that means literally nothing. What you are saying means literally nothing.
It's fine.
Like
It's whatever.
you're saying nothing with any substance. You're just saying, well, loss is lost. That
They're
doesn't
not
apply to
only
going
losing
from
one game.
loss. That doesn't go from losing one game that season to losing 4. You're not explaining yourself.
I said 3-2 I never said 4 on the dot.
Brandon, did you not say the number 4? Did you not say the number 4?
Yeah, I said 3-2-4. Did I say
no,
just 4?
You said the number 4, Brandon.
Doesn't
You
matter.
think they're gonna? You think they have a chance
a
of losing
range.
4 games?
Absolutely, every team has a
going
chance of
to.
losing 4 games.
Then why don't you say like NC State is going to lose 4 games? They have the possibility to.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. You're
can.
not submitting any evidence to prove why you think. You said, oh, they lose players, but you're not mentioning the players that they brought in. They lose their top rusher. They bring in a 4-star rusher who's the 80th best player in the country.
Okay, have we seen him play?
He's the 80th best player in the country. We can make an assumption that he's going to be just fine. We can make an assumption that Spencer Sanders is going to get better because that's what every quarterback does. If he's not going to be the same, he's going to be better. They don't just get worse.
Okay, that's fine.
You're not submitting evidence. You just
their schedule is tough. They have an opportunity and a very high chance to lose 3-4.
To lose 3 to 4. I just don't see. I literally. But you're not saying to specifically whom. You're not saying
Doesn't
specifically
matter.
why. You just need to say so because otherwise you're just saying stuff.
All right, well, let's take the next 20 minutes.
Because no, look, I went.
Look at this schedule.
Well, no, see, because I went to the games for Clemson. And I explained why I think they're going to win those games.
First 3 games, easy
Yes.
peasy, not a problem. I think after the second loss, we'll see Herm Edwards get fired after ASU starts off 0-2 for the season.
I don't think Herm
loss against Baylor because you are at Baylor. I really think just from Dave Aranda and beating them the hell up that day. They'll beat Texas Tech. They'll beat Texas Tech at home. TCU will be a close win. They lose to Texas. I think Texas wins that game. They beat Kansas State, beat Kansas. Iowa State is up there. Oklahoma, I'm going to give a loss to.
I look at Texas.
There's my 3.
Literally, their entire offense is just Bijan Robinson. And if you don't think Oklahoma State can slow down Bijan Robinson.
With what defense?
What do you mean with what defense, Brandon? They had literally the 5th best defense last year.
And they lost half of that.
Half, Brandon. That's a lot more return rate than 90% of the teams in the country.
And you're losing your top tacklers.
Yeah, top 2, but they have support after that. It's the same thing you always say every time Notre Dame loses 2 good guys. Like, oh, they got the talent behind them. There's talent there. They have Xavier Benson. Okay, they have a way more improved offensive line to give Spencer Sanders time in the pocket to at least make better decisions. They brought in 3 running backs, so if that doesn't bring back, I don't know, some, if not all, of their production from the running game last year. Look, can I see an Oklahoma loss? Sure. Can I see a Baylor loss? Sure. Outside of that, I see no teams that threaten Oklahoma State in a way that they will lose.
The only reason why I say 3-4 is because you always have that one Big 12 game that no one thinks about. And I always think of TCU when you're at TCU or an Iowa State game. That's all I'm saying.
And I completely understand the TCU and Iowa State thing because they're always teams you can't predict. What I'm also going to say is TCU doesn't have Gary Patterson anymore. And even when he was there, they were on a strong decline. And Iowa State, well, they have literally all of their offense last year. Their 2 biggest components, Brock Purdy and Breece Hall, are gone. And I look at who they've brought in. They're not going to replace Breece Hall because Breece Hall was a Heisman contender. And Brock Purdy, if he was their best starter last year, then I am sorry for all their backups. Look, can I see 2 losses?
I only say they have a chance just because of the way Dan Campbell coaches.
Dan Campbell's not the head coach at Iowa State. Isn't he the head coach of the Lions? I think you're thinking of Matt Campbell.
Oh, that's who it is. Dan Campbell, yeah.
Dan Campbell's cool too. We love Dan Campbell.
MCDC.
I look at it. I can see a possibility of 2 losses. I cannot personally see 3 to 4. I'm gonna go with 1 loss to Baylor. Then they sweep the floor after that.
It's a tough road. It's a tough road to do.
I'm not saying it's a super easy road, but they're talented enough to make it through.
So if you're saying they're going to finish the season with 1 loss, are they winning the Big 12 then if they go to the championship game?
That's difficult.
If it's against Baylor.
I'm predicting it's going to be against Baylor. I would say it's a repeat. It's difficult. I look at Baylor's offense; they don't have much positive change either. Like
Dude,
Oklahoma State
that
doesn't have.
quarterback they had, that young quarterback who came on last year,
He wasn't that
he's
good.
a freaking. Are you kidding me?
He played terribly last year. I don't know what you're talking about. He was not good.
Dude, oh my God, did he not start the freaking Big 12 championship game like 7 for 7 with 150 something yards?
What was the final score of the game?
Did they win?
What was the final score of the game? Point wise, what was the final score of the game? Was it 27-24? Oklahoma State shuts down in the second half. They did that all year last year. They'll do it again. But I do think Oklahoma State will lose in the Big 12 championship. But it won't because
that's
of
all I'm
quarterback
saying.
play.
If they win, are you putting them in the playoff?
If they win, look, if they are 11-1 and their only loss is week 4 to a Baylor team that's probably top 10, yeah, it would.
Fair enough. Well, we get to finish with probably the one team I just dislike the most in all.
Oh, absolutely.
Football.
Oh no,
Number 10,
Ohio
Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, they
12-2,
lose
8-1.
everyone.
Crazy season last year, beating Ohio State in the snow game. Alec called that. We were actually at Wings, etc. while watching that game. I remember going to that.
I think I was on the road. I think you guys kept texting. I was like, well, I can't do anything.
Yep. That was fantastic to watch. And then Big 12 or Big 10 championship game against Alex Hawkeyes, which was a freaking bloodbath for the Hawkeyes. I do not see them going back to the Big 10 championship game this year. I think they're
the 4th best team in the East.
I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, whether they start McNamara or McCarthy. They still have not figured that out. They were still questioning it in the spring game. You lose, obviously, Hutchinson, Ajabo, Haskins, Ross, Hawkins, Gray, Daxton.
Literally their entire defense. Everyone that was good on their defense is gone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to lose less than 9 games. I'm going to say a 9-10 win season.
I'm just going to go through the schedule here. Once we finish your thought,
no, I'm just saying. I just think they go 9 or 10 wins, but I think Michigan State finishes above them in the standings.
I'm saying Michigan State and Penn State finish above them in the standings, just because of return factor. Like, was Penn State record-wise worse? Yes, but then again, they have more returning and proven commodities. Literally, almost Penn State's entire defense, except for Jaquan Brisker. And I think it was a linebacker. I can't think of his name right now. He was really good too. Are gone. So they bring back a lot of people, including I think a couple 4-star safeties. Look, if we look at Michigan's thing, you're probably starting 4-0 when you have Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut, and Maryland. Maryland's tough though. Maryland is really tough because Tulia Tagovailoa could go off on them and they could lose. I think because you're playing at Iowa, you're going to lose to Iowa. But Kinnick Stadium was a hell of a place.
I'm glad you – that's why I like how you brought up Maryland, because I think that's a dangerous game. Even if they do win, that's like your first real test of the season. And then, like you just said, you're going to Iowa, which is always very tough to play.
Well, yeah, look, you're starting off with 3 cupcakes, and then all of a sudden you're getting thrown in the shit with Maryland and Iowa.
I don't know much about IU. I like Tom Allen as a coach.
So do I. I think
coach.
his mentality is good, but it's also Indiana, and you can't do much there for an extended period of time.
I think they get Michael Penix back though. That's a huge addition.
It's big, but is it that big? The reason Indiana was good a couple years ago was because their defense was holding teams to way less than they should be.
Yeah,
and that defense is gone.
Penix was running all over the place.
Yeah,
and was able to throw the ball.
But Penix has been injured for 2 years. Can he stay healthy, and can he be the same player he was? I don't think so. I think Michigan wins that game. Then you're going, yeah, Penn State at home. But listen, every time Penn State and Michigan play, it's close, and every year they flip-flop who wins. Last year, Michigan won, which tends to mean this year Penn State will win. then look, Michigan State has run the Michigan State rivalry, and they will continue to
Well,
do it.
those two games are very fun. I like how they scheduled that. We are from the Midwest. This is when you are in mid-October, where you are going to get some shitty weather as
And
far as
possibility
rain.
of like rain, you might even get 6 inches of snow somehow.
So you never know with the Big Ten country. So I think those games are awesome. It is kind of, I don't know. I think Penn State wins the game though. I think Michigan State will be a great game. I think Michigan State actually wins. So that's back-to-back losses. Then they win
Back
the
to back
next three, and
losses.
then they get
I think.
stomped by Ohio State.
Well, so, the thing is, look, I'm thinking by the time Michigan State rolls around, they already have 3 losses. They have like nothing to play for at that point. So you're like, okay, we'll beat Rutgers, cool. We'll beat Nebraska, cool. Hear me out. I love Brett Bielema. He's the perfect head coach for the Big Ten. His running style is like we will run it up your face as many times as possible to tire you out, and then we'll break a 70-yard run every 20 plays, and we'll somehow drop like 38 points on you, and we'll win. I honestly think Illinois could upset Michigan, and I think Ohio State obviously will stomp Michigan. We're looking on this is wild, bold, and extremely hatred against Michigan, but we don't really love Michigan here. Michigan's gonna win 7 games this year, in my opinion. 7 regular season, they might win their bowl game.
It's going to be a pretty abysmal season, I think, for Wolverine fans
Look,
after the
I
high they
think
had last year.
McNamara will start after the Michigan State game. No, McNamara will start up until the Michigan State game. They'll lose Michigan State with McNamara, and it's like we can't really keep you now because you've lost every good game. And then they throw McCarthy in. McCarthy has the raw talent. And then you're playing against Rutgers and Nebraska. So he's getting all high and mighty. And then Brett Bielema's Illinois defense, which is actually pretty good, is going to show some troubles, and they're going to lose to Illinois and then lose to Ohio State. And it's not going to be a good season for Michigan fans. And I'm going to laugh. I'm going to really laugh.
Listen, these are some pretty interesting teams, and I know we did this last segment. Out of the 5 teams we have just discussed, who has the best chance of making a run for a playoff spot, and who has the biggest chance to completely fall out
Well,
of possibly playing in a bowl game?
if we're going best chance to make the playoff just based on strength of schedule and star rated talent, high 5-star rated talent. Oh, Clemson is probably the best bet if I'm putting money on it to make the CFP, with Oklahoma State coming in as a close second. And the team to completely fall apart, it's got to be Michigan. Their schedule is nasty, as it is almost every year. But look, you lose everyone who was great for you on defense, and you still, after 2 years, don't know who your guaranteed quarterback is week to week. That's not how you can't run a successful team that way. And it's going to show this year. It's like, oh, well, we don't know who our quarterback is. Well, let's just see what happens if we keep mixing them around. And everyone everyone plays with a chip on their shoulder, but sometimes it doesn't work, and people try to do things that they're not supposed to do when they throw a ball into a window that's too tight, and they cost you the game.
I'm going to shock you. I'm going to say Oklahoma State has the best chance to make a playoff run to get to a spot. I'm going to say the team that probably drops off for me will be Oklahoma. I don't think it's one of those situations where you're bringing in pretty much everything new head coach, new quarterback, new everything. Not saying they're going to not make a bowl game, but I can see them dropping out of the top 25 possibly.
That's definitely possible. It's like there are many teams in the Big 12 this year that could surprise you. Kansas State, Texas Tech, TCU. And they just so happen to have 2 of those teams away. So they could lose 2 more games than they're expected to, and they could be a team that's sitting at the 27, 28 spot by the end of the year, but not top 25. So I don't fully disagree with you on that.
Well, other than that, that's another.
Actually, I think last time I also brought up a team that was not listed in the top 25 that I think could make a little dangerous run. I'm going to do that again this year. Not this year. What the hell this week? Good Lord. I'm all over the place. A team that's not ranked in the top 25 that, in my opinion, almost definitely should be. LSU, I
Oh,
think.
God.
I
I'm
think
done.
talent-wise, head coaching-wise, they could
Mm-hmm.
easily make a surprising. They could upset games. They could be 9-3,
Yeah.
10-2.
With what quarterback?
Any of the four they have. I mean,
Hmm.
they have a 5-star. They have the transfer from uh, Arizona State. They could easily be fine.
Yowza. I'm surprised you have not talked about your boys Penn State, who are not in the top 25.
Well, I every year I talk about them, and they always disappoint. So I'm just trying to keep that a little bit bottled away right now until we get later in the season where they already have hopefully 7 wins at some point. But see,
Be fine.
yeah, well, and I knew bringing that up because you're a Notre Dame fan, and Brian Kelly left in a horrible way. I'm not gonna. Brian Kelly's a horrible person. He's a terrible dude, but he won. Like regular season wise, he won, and he's already brought in like 5-star recruits. Like I think he's already brought in 4 5-star recruits to LSU in a span of what is it, 6 months? I think he'll be fine.
That's a weird ending. Was not expecting that to be the ending of our episode, but we will come back. I don't know. I guess it's up to Kellen's schedule and my schedule for the next 4 or 5 teams, which will be Michigan State, NC State, Notre Dame, Utah, and Tejas A&M, and then we will finish up with the last top 4. Very good teams in the top 4 positions, but as of right now, that is it. Psyched that college football is early back. August 27th, we have Nevada, New Mexico State, Western Kentucky, and I believe that is Arkansas. I don't even know what that is. APSU. And then we have Nebraska Northwestern as well.
I
August
think that's
27th.
APSU. I think that's is it Austin P State University?
I think it's just Austin P. I
No,
think it's called Austin P State.
Austin P State. That's what it is.
Well, college football is back in 3 weeks, so that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And that's all we really care about. I want some football. I want some good football. And September 1st is a hell of a day for good football.
But make sure you follow us on Twitter,
And
Instagram,
Instagram.
and our YouTube. And we'll keep updated with our rankings here. We'll try to come up with a graphic as well, especially getting into the top 10 teams now. We'll start with Michigan and get these other teams on a graphic, and we'll give you guys our input, at least on our pictures. You guys can see about who we're talking about and what we think will happen. But other than that, I got nothing else.
I don't think I have anything else either. Just look, don't sleep on Texas Tech. Don't hate on LSU because Brian Kelly is there. Just be a little open-minded, folks. Maybe you'd be surprised.
Other than that, have a good one.
Adios, people.